Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to your PhD in France webinar series. My name is Véronique de Borlazaro. I work as a scientific and higher education attaché at the French Embassy in the Czech Republic, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you today. So your PhD in France webinar series is a joint project between the French embassies in Austria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia, along with their Campus France teams. The aim of this project is to introduce you to PhD studies in France first by providing you with background information on the topic, but also to give you the opportunity to interact with key stakeholders in France in different fields of research. So basically, whether you're a master's student that's considering doing a PhD, or you've just embarked on your doctoral project and you would be interested in giving it a more international edge, or you're a PhD supervisor who would like to know more about cooperation opportunities with France, well, you're definitely in the right place. So now let's focus on today's webinar. Today will be an introduction to the functioning of a doctoral program in France. We'll explain how doctoral schools work, how to find PhD opportunities in a French lab, what type of funding you can find, and also provide you with useful information for your project. So one very important point is that this webinar will set the necessary background to follow the thematic-based sessions that will start as of next week on natural sciences, social sciences and the humanities, life and health sciences, and finally AI applied to environment. So I would now like to introduce our guest speakers for the day, and also take this opportunity to warmly thank them for their participation. So first of all, Dr. Aude Chanson, who's the head of the Research Programs and Promotion Division at Campus France in Paris. Thank you very much, Aude, for joining us today. Dr. Melike Riolet, who's International Affairs Manager at the Association Bernard Grégory in Paris, France as well. Thank you very much, Melike. Dr. Weronika Lelakova, who's recently obtained her PhD degree jointly in France and in the Czech Republic. And she will be interviewed by my colleagues Athénaïs Sureau from Campus France Czech Republic and Vincent de Laplace from Campus France Austria. So thank you again very much to all of you for your contribution. Before we get going with the topic of our webinar, I wanted to give you some practical information. The first one is that all PowerPoint presentations that will be used during this webinar will be sent to you afterwards, so you don't have to write everything down very quickly. Also, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen that you can use to ask questions to our panelists. One thing I wanted to tell you, though, is that there will be a lot of information that will be delivered to you throughout the webinar. So maybe we would like to suggest that you wait a little bit before asking your questions, as the answer might be given to you while we speak. And of course, we will dedicate time at the end of the webinar to answer your question through a question and answer session. And last but not least, this webinar is being recorded and it will be made available to you on our Facebook pages. So I think we can now move on to our agenda. So dear Aude and Melike, I will leave the floor to you to tell our audience everything they have always wanted to know about le doctorat, but we're afraid to ask. So
Thank you very much, Veronique, for this presentation. So as you just mentioned very quickly, all 5 dates for your PhD in France in January and February at 5 p.m. So today we are doing the basics, if my PowerPoint presentation works, yes. And we are going to explain very quickly first Campus France agency, and then Association Bernard Grégory, and Melike will present the association. So for Campus France is a very big organization. It's the French agency for the promotion and higher education, and provide a lot of services to international students and regarding international mobility, as well as all international higher education and research institutions abroad. So the 3 main missions of the agency is to inform all foreign students from bachelor to postdoctoral who wants to study or work in France, to help universities and higher education and research institutions to develop international cooperation and recruit students all over the world, as well as implementing system of grants and scholarship to study in France. And we're going to discuss that with the specific context of doctorate.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to organizers for the invitation. So let me introduce very quickly ABG, Association Bernard Grégory. We are a non-profit organization dedicated to PhD recruitment and career development, and especially outside academia. So we have three main activities. The first one is recruitment, especially through our job board on our website. We share thesis topics that I will tell you about in a bit, master's internships. We also have job offers in academia and outside academia, especially in the business sector. So our second activity is information. We set up events, currently a lot online, and we share information, for example, PhD career paths, career advice, fundings, international mobility opportunities through our website, newsletters, through social media. And the third one would be trainings, so individual trainings and group trainings for PhD candidates, postdocs, confirmed researchers to help steer their career. So as I told you, we're a French organization, but we are also active internationally and especially in Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So first main question, maybe why a PhD in France? So you may think of France regarding the main cliché like wine, cheese, gastronomy, luxury, but France is also well known for very higher topic in research such as robotics, aeronautics, and so on. So just to give you a clear and short view of the research in France. So we have, as you know, quite a lot of Nobel Prizes, even recently with Emmanuel Charpentier last year in chemistry, a lot of medal fields regarding mathematics area. We are the second country in the world. Very, very famous also as a higher research institution, the CNRS, regarding the number of publication and publication impacts. 6 in the world for the patent filing, and we have almost 3,000 researchers working in France. So research is recruiting in France, and that's why we need a doctor. The top research institution in France in the private and the public sector. So here you have few numbers regarding the budget in terms of research. So 2.24% are GPDP, and it's a lot of people working in the research field, as I explained, in the private and public sector, 40% in the public sector, such as universities, CNRS, IRCEM, and a lot of other research institutions, and 60% are employed in the private sector. Here again, some logos of the biggest industries in France who are recruiting researchers in different areas, in different fields. Here, some key figures regarding the PhD and the doctorate. So we have in France every year 75,000 PhD candidates, and 3,000 are international PhD candidates. So the PhD level is the level we are recruiting the most of international students. So it's very important in our universities in France. Now, the idea is to explain what is a PhD in France. So very quickly, as you probably all know, the LMD system, as it's a European system. So you start with the licence, so the bachelor, 3 years, and then the master's, 2 years, and then the doctorate or PhD, 3 years. So it's theoretically 8 years program with 480 ECTS, so the European credits that you have in all European countries. So now more specifically regarding the doctoral training. So it's 3 components. So you have the doctoral school, the research center lab, the supervisor, and in the middle, the doctoral student. So you have a full-time research for 3-4 years, depending on the disciplines, usually 3-4 years in the hard sciences, a little bit longer in social and human sciences. So we're going to explain a little bit the differences between the disciplines in France regarding the length of the PhD, but also the finance and the results. So the doctoral training is the training with scientific training and non-disciplinary training. So you do have, in some cases, courses, but also teaching and obviously research in your lab or in archives or different fields, depending again on your disciplines. Quite difficult to generalize as it's very different depending on your topic. How it works in France, so you have the university, only public university can deliver a PhD, and the university is divided in many doctoral schools, so depending again on the disciplines. In each doctoral school, you get different research labs. So here an example, for example, with the physics, so you have many labs like optics, mechanics, and so on, all together join in one doctoral school. So in France, in total, you get 270 doctoral schools for more than 500 public labs. For the enrollment for a PhD, as you can imagine, is a very selective process. So first, the candidate must have a master's degree that we just saw in the previous slide. So 5 years and 300 ECTS with a research experience, and finding having a funding for at least 3 years. Again, as I explained, it's more for the hard sciences than the human and social sciences. Mini level of English and French or French is required. For all of these language requirements and all these language questions, always make sure with your supervisor or the doctoral school to make sure what is exactly required. How to get the PhD degree in France. So for those requirements, you have to see and get confirmed by the doctoral school. So most of the time you need some publication, participate or animate some seminars and workshops. Having a training program is few numbers of hours, and it's really to give more information regarding the professional expectation, such as writing your CV or academic writing or English courses and so on. Obviously, you have to write your thesis dissertation. The length, again, is different regarding your discipline, and an oral defense. Most of the time, those requirements can be done in English, but you have to look after the doctoral school to be sure. Now I would like to present you the different types of doctorates you may do in France. So you have the very basic single doctorate. So one research laboratory, one university, and one supervisor. And at the end, you obtain one French degree. The co-supervised doctorate with 2 thesis supervisors. One is in France and another one can be in France or in another country. But at the end, you still have one French degree. The joint doctorate or cotutelles is very interesting, as you have 2 supervisors, 2 universities and 2 countries. And at the end, you obtain 2 degrees. And the last one, very specific, called in-company doctorate or CIF in French. The idea is you have 2 supervisors, one in the research lab in your public university and one in a company. So at the end, you have a work contract and a research experience, and you obtain 1 French degree. So just to give you more explanation about this very specific contract, you have the PhD candidate, the laboratory, and the company. And it's really a very complete PhD with professional and research experience at the same time. To have more information regarding PhD in France, don't hesitate to look out our research portal, where the website is written at the bottom of the slide. Now I will let Melike give you more information on the way to how to apply for a PhD.
Thank you, Aude. So for those who are looking for a PhD position on our website, on the job board of ABG, we have thesis topics in about 30 scientific fields. So today we have approximately 150 positions online in different kind of labs. So this may be in a private company, for example. Aude already mentioned the CIF contracts. This PhD can be in public agencies, or it could be in a more traditional lab or in a European project, of course. So you may find ads in French or in English. Of course, other possibilities exist to find a thesis topic. Websites like Euraccess or Campus France website, ANRT for CIF contracts. And you may also check directly the university's web page or the labs in order to find the topic. Don't forget, for social sciences and humanities, you have often more flexibility to propose a research project of your own. So do not hesitate to contact relevant labs if you have already a beginning of an idea of a research project. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what are the requirements and documents to apply? Here I chose two thesis ads from physics and in economics from our website. In general, you will need a CV and motivation letter explaining your past research experience and also the contribution that you are planning to do to the project. The application documents and procedures may vary, but in general, you will be asked for references and also, of course, copies of transcripts, degrees, etc. So do not forget that to be accepted for a PhD position, you will need some expertise, some past research experience, technical expertise, skills, but your willingness to learn, your motivation, your personal skills like teamwork, like proactiveness will be important as well. So one of the best ways to show these personal skills would be to contact directly the labs in which you would like to work, your potential supervisor, your future colleagues. So I highly encourage you to not to limit yourself to online applications. Next slide, please. Finally, don't forget that PhD is a professional experience. So one classic mistake that master's students may make would be to consider the PhD as an extension of their studies. PhD is also a professional experience. It's one step towards your future career. So before engaging in a PhD, you really need to ask yourselves, why do I want to do a PhD? Is this something suitable for me? Do I have what it takes on the personal level for this kind of commitment? And also, what will a PhD degree and a PhD experience bring to me for my future career? So in order to choose wisely your PhD, you need to have access to information on different labs, on the supervisor, on different kind of fundings, career perspectives, etc. So there are resources that may help you, like ABG, like Campus France, like these webinars, PhD guides available on the internet. but also it's really important to network, to discuss with people around you. So you may contact your current professors, people you know that already do a PhD. And it would also be a good idea to explore a bit the job market for PhDs, and also discuss with people working in sectors that may maybe interest you in the future, to see the added value of a PhD. Thank you.
Thank you, Melike. So the next part is about funding and finance, a very important question, I guess, for all of future doctoral students. So the question is how you get finance your PhD. Again, two main options depending on your disciplines. If you are in what we call exact sciences, such as physics, chemistry, and so on, the candidate must have a funding to be able to register. In the social and human sciences, it's really different. You have to check with the doctoral school to make sure, but most of the time, no funding is required. So here I put some fundings option by the host institution. Really don't hesitate to look at each university. They have their own funding for doctoral position. With the CIF doctoral contract, as we already discussed in this webinar, funding by the French government. So you have part funding such as EFEL grant, but also full-time grant with the MOBGA, for example, which is a Make Our Planet Great Again, and other French government options. Funding also is possible via the European Joint Doctorate, so the EJD, with the Marie Curie scholarship. You also have the option by your own foreign governments. And finally, with your personal funding. So that are the different options. And in the next slide, I will describe the different options by your own countries. I mean, the grant that you may have in your country to come to France doing your PhD. So you have, yeah, maybe it's, I don't know how to do that. With the different countries, you have always a deadline. So really pay attention on the deadline. It can be very early, such as in Czech Republic with February, or also Hungary in February. And you have some other countries where the deadline is later, such as Austria in spring, or Poland in May. You also have differences with the amount of the scholarship and the duration of the scholarship. Sometimes it's a short stay, sometimes it's longer. So you have to really pay attention of what you want to do of your research stay in France, and make sure to look at all the criteria and requirements with the website information that are in the slides. We're gonna finish this presentation with the information that you are available on different websites. So I will let first Melike describe the resources online for the Association Bernard Grégory.
Okay, yes, as I was saying, on our website, you may find different resources very quickly. For example, testimonies of PhD candidates and holders that may inspire you in your project, feedback from recruiters on the added value of a PhD to your career, and also on their expectations, career advice as well. And also, as I was saying, the events for early researchers, the call for applications, fundings, mobility opportunities. So do not hesitate to subscribe also to one of our monthly newsletters. Finally, you may, of course, follow us on social media, on LinkedIn or Twitter. Thank you.
Thank you. For the Campus France website, so you have a lot of documentation and studies online in French, English, and Spanish. So I put some flyers such as the web portal research, where you can find all doctoral schools registered in France, and you have research module to give you and to go quicker to your interest with the disciplines, but also with the area, in which region do you have the doctoral schools. And you also have another option for the offers, as Melike explained with the Association Bernard Grégory. With Campus France, you also have this opportunity to find thesis contract, but also postdoc contract, and also research master subjects. We also publish degree sheets. So here I put the example of the doctoral studies in France and the international dual degree PhD, so cotutelles, that I already explained in this webinar. But you have plenty of other degree sheets regarding your interest and in which field do you would like to study in France. We also have higher institution and research institution sheets. So all the universities, or most of the universities and research institution. I give here the example of the University of Bordeaux. You can look at the label Bienvenue en France that shows the action of the university to welcome properly the international students. So that may be also a criteria if you would like to apply, and the main topics and key numbers for each institution. A very interesting and detailed booklet regarding research in France. So we really call like the mode d'emploi, the doctorate step by step, to explain to you where you can do a PhD in France, the best institution and the funding and how it works. So all of these tools are available online, again in 3 different languages. So I will get the floor now to Athénaïs and Vincent to interview Veronica Lelacova.
Hello, everyone, and hello, Veronica. Thank you for being here with us to share your experience. So you are a former PhD student. You did a co-tutelle between Université Côte d'Azur in France and Masaryk University in the Czech Republic. And you defended your thesis in December last year in the field of natural drugs and life and health sciences. So my first question for you is, why did you choose to apply for a PhD in France?
So good afternoon, everybody. At first, let me thank you for inviting me to give a testimony on my studies. And regarding your question, the reason why I chose France for my PhD was my previous experience with France. As younger, I spent 3 summers in France, and I have had French friends and acquaintances. I would say that I had a positive attitude in general toward France, and I was interested in how the research in my field looks like in France. And this influenced my decision.
Okay. And how was the work environment in the lab in France?
I was conducting my research in a team composed of excellent French scientists and French people. However, there were a lot of international students working on their PhD projects at the same institute, so I could practice both English and French, and I would say also that it was very dynamic and stimulating intellectual environment.
And to continue about this environment, you mentioned so this French lab in which you were. What were for you the benefits of working with a French lab?
I would say that this experience really broadened my horizons. I acquired a lot of theoretical knowledge and got several real practical experience with numerous modern techniques in my field. And also, I would say that the opportunity to be a part of a bigger scientific institute and was a really great experience. I could learn from French scientists with long-term expertise, and this really enriched my professional life and influenced my view on science, and I believe also my professional career, my future professional career.
Great. And Athénaïs mentioned you were in a cotutelle between Université Côte d'Azur and the Masaryk University. And what is for you the added value of doing a cotutelle during a PhD?
Thanks for the question. I think the added value of the cotutelle is that having two or more supervisors can bring you a lot of experience, because every your supervisor has different scientific experience, different approaches, and also different view on science, and you can really learn a lot from each of them. And in final, you can receive also this double degree diploma, which is really valuable.
And we had a question as well about how did you find your French supervisor? Can you explain to us how did you manage?
I have to admit that my Czech laboratory had different collaborations with universities abroad, but no collaboration with France. So I just decided to try my luck, and I wrote my CV and a motivation letter and sent it to several institutions I was interested in across whole France. And from I don't know, approximately 25 mails I sent, I received some answers, and among them my future French supervisor, Dr. Catherine Heurtaud, answered me that my PhD project could be integrated well in the research of her scientific team, and she will be pleased to welcome me in the laboratory. And so we created a common PhD project, and this resulted in a nice collaboration between the Czech and French laboratories. I have to say that I really had a chance in this way, and I was nicely surprised by the hospitality of my French supervisors.
So we are very glad to hear it too. And so you mentioned very positive elements. Maybe did you encounter difficulties during your stay? So as a PhD student, or generally speaking, did you have problems, and how did you manage to solve them?
Yes, I encountered also some difficulties, mostly with administration, which differs in France and in the Czech Republic. I mean, mostly administration related to my studies and life in general, but I think that there is nothing to worry about, because there was always some solution. And already the fact that all countries concerned are in the European Union simplifies all the administration. And yes, also Campus France and the embassy give you all the necessary information at the beginning of your stay, and regarding, I don't know, for example, the health insurance or civil liability, and you can also contact them during the whole studies. So there's really nothing to worry about. If you have really good colleagues, they will help you with a lot of stuff.
And now you're finished, what are your plans for the future?
So my French and also Czech colleagues and supervisors motivated me to continue in science. So I would like to do a postdoc. Therefore, I'm currently looking for positions in my field. For the moment, I stay in Brno, but in future, I would like to do a postdoc abroad, maybe in France. Who knows?
So thank you. And before ending this interview and answering the question of the public, I wanted to ask you if you could describe your experience in one sentence. I know it's hard.
Yes, this is a really difficult question to put my experience in one sentence, but I would say that traveling broadens your horizons, increases your autonomy, and brings you a lot of experience. And there are a lot of things to be discovered in France, starting with the French culture, French cuisine, and for example, of course, science.
Thank you, Veronica. Thank you very much for your answers and for your testimony. So which gave us the perspective of a PhD student. So we will now shift to our last part, and we will answer the questions that have been asked in the question and answer box. Just before that, if our viewers have questions to ask you directly, Veronica, we are going to share your email address in the chat. Please, of course, do not share this address and contact Veronica only regarding her PhD. And so we had many questions. Maybe Veronica or Aude, could you please show us the slide with our 5 countries with their flags? So there has been a question regarding this slide. So if it concerns the 5 countries of France, Véronique, maybe you can answer.
Yeah, I will start. I'm not sure which questions you are mentioning. I was thinking of maybe taking each questions in the Q&A box and starting, because
there was one question regarding if those grants are for foreign students coming to France or French students coming to the foreign countries. And my guess is for foreign students coming to study in France, right?
Yes, most of these grants are indeed for students enrolled in the partner countries, so in Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, Austria, or Poland. There are some exceptions, though, with the Czech Republic, where we also offer grants in the frame of a partnership with the Czech government. We offer grants for students registered in France to come to the Czech Republic, but it is true that most of those grants are for students in the partner countries. Okay, so maybe I will start with the first questions, go back to the Q&A box. Maybe if our panelists can turn their cameras on again, because I will certainly need their support to answer those questions. I think I answered the first question, which was in French, and the question was about the minimum grades in the second year of master to enroll in a PhD program, and my answer was that this will depend on the program and on your supervisor, but there is no national regulation regarding the minimum grade that you need to have to enroll in a PhD in France. The second question was about the age limit to enroll in a PhD in France. So I don't think there is any age limit. There might be some limits in some fundings, sometimes some funding opportunities that will set an eligibility criterion in terms of age, but the national regulations in France do not ask you to be below 30 or 35 or so to answer Noël's question, I think yes, you could start your PhD even if you're 37. Next question. So funding in certain countries, we've answered. If I'm a PhD student in another country and I want to make a PhD cotutelle with a university in France, is this possible? Yeah, that's, I don't know if anyone would answer this question, but that's kind of the point of the cotutelle.
Exactly. The sooner is the better, but if you didn't start the cotutelle from the first year, it's not that a big deal, but you have to contact quickly your maybe next French supervisor to organize the cotutelle.
Yes, and one thing, one other question was sort of related, was about a student who was studying, I believe, in Poland. It was his first year as a PhD student, and PhD studies in Poland last 4 years, like in other countries. And so usually what happens is that students from these countries start their cotutelle program as of their second year. So yeah, usually that is not a problem. Are there any programs for medical physicians? So maybe, I don't know if Aude or Melike want to answer this question.
Probably.
Yes, there are programs if you want to do a science PhD, because of course medical physicians in France, they have a thesis, but it's not a science thesis. But usually it will be connected to a doctoral school in biology or life sciences in general. So yes, there are options, of course, for medical physicians to pursue a PhD. I hope I'm answering your question. Of course, you can still contact us afterwards if you're not satisfied with the answer and need more precisions. Is there any contact person you can share with me from Campus France and Poland? Yes, you will have all our contacts, but maybe I think Mihai is following us, but maybe one of my colleagues can write in the chat the contact name and address for Campus France and Poland. That would be really nice to answer Pavel. I don't know, Athénaïs or Vincent, if you can do that. Thank you. It is said that the deadline for cotutelle application for Polish students is due in May. When does the application process start? Oh yeah, and so you have the information about Campus France already in the chat, and Campus France in Poland already in the chat. Regarding the deadline, Michał, could you answer that question as well about the start of the application process in Poland? That would be nice as well. Okay, and the next question is in French, but I will, if you don't mind, try to translate it in English and then ask Aude or Melike to answer it. There's the question about how to find a supervisor. And that sometimes they don't answer when you contact them. How can you overcome this problem? So I don't know if Aude or Melike would like to say a word about this.
I will join actually what Melike already said regarding social networking. I think the best way to find your supervisor is to show your work and to present your work at different seminars or even poster session. And for that, it's very important to get contact before to send a random email to somebody. It's always better when you already discuss before or show your work during your master thesis or even the beginning of your PhD in case of a cotutelle.
Yeah, I would say actually there was some related questions to this. I saw many questions on how to contact random strangers. Sometimes we don't get an answer, etc. I would say that the best way would be to have an efficient presentation of yourself, of your project. What I would recommend for the supervisors would be before sending, a whole application, maybe to contact them by email, just writing a few sentences about your motivations, about who you are, and to see if there are available positions, if they would be interested in. your profile before, you know, doing all this effort to prepare an application. And otherwise to try, when you are trying to find people who can help you, professional social media would be a good way to identify people who could be helpful for you. So for example, on LinkedIn or ResearchGate, you may do a search by some keywords, and as you may identify people with a common, maybe who have something common with you. It could be nationality, it could be activities, previous diplomas, interests, etc. And again, if you can present yourself efficiently, what you did till now, what you want to do, what is your project, and what is your expectations from this person, why did you contact this person? In most cases, people would be willing to help you.
Thank you very much, Melike and Oda. I don't know if well, Veronica had a very happy experience about this. It's true that it's not always the case, unfortunately.
If I can say some words, yes, I would advise to really check different laboratories in your field and the research of specific teams, and contact directly the head of the team that you would like to maybe just firstly present your research, what you are doing, what are your experience, was your experience, and directly contact the head of the team. Or I maybe, in my case, I sent my emails to doctoral schools. Sometimes the secretary of the doctoral school diffuses your spontaneous application to the whole institute, but it's also a good idea to contact directly the head of the team or the scientist who is carrying out the research in your area that you are interested in.
Thank you very much, Veronica. This is very helpful. So let's go back to the Q&A. I hope we have answered your question well. Question by Julia. Do you have some offers for joint PhD from civil engineering? So there are offers for PhD in civil engineering. You may want to check them. Of course, the websites that were mentioned previously during the presentation. Offers for joint PhD immediately. I'm not sure this is something that you will find, because it's usually start your PhD in one university and then you look for another supervisor in the French university. But maybe this will happen probably in the case of European projects. So when you have offers, for instance, to join a Marie Curie network, for instance, you can have offers of joint PhD. But otherwise, I don't think that would be that common. Maybe Melike or Aude, you can complete my answer.
It was quite clear. No, really, the joint PhD, as you just mentioned, start in one university, and hopefully you get one funding for the single doctorate, and from that you can extend to a joint PhD. But it's quite rare to have funding for a joint PhD, except the European joint doctorate.
Thank you very much. Melike, any additional information or? Next question, in case of a joint doctorate, if I'm already on a first year of PhD in Poland, we have a lot of candidates from Poland today, do I have to pass the whole PhD admission process in France? And I believe the answer will be yes. Depending, of course, of the doctoral school, you will have to provide the necessary information to enroll in the program in France.
Actually, for the admission process, you pay one student fees. So depending what is your main institution for your PhD, And there is a contract, a convention between your home university and the French university. So in this case, Polish university and French universities. And with this convention, with this kind of contract, you skip quite a lot of admission process.
Okay.
And I will reply to one of the questions in the Q&A regarding the time in this contract. It will be decided in which language you write your thesis, in which language you do your defense, and how many years or months you will spend in one country and in the other country. So everything is determined by your two supervisors and the PhD candidate in this contract. So
Thank you very much. Oh, yes, the cotutelle agreement is a very, very important document. And that this should be taken into consideration when applying because it takes some time to set it up. So next question. Thank you. One more question, if I understood correctly. I need to find by myself funding for the project, but there is any scholarship for PhD students from the university. So I am not sure exactly where you are from or what university. This would depend on your home university, obviously. But if you apply to a PhD offer in France, for instance, on the websites that were mentioned earlier, usually there will be funding associated with the PhD offer. It is true that in the case of social sciences and the humanities, for instance, it is less common to have PhD offers published. And then sometimes there is no funding attached to your project. I don't know, Melike or Aude, again, if you'd like to complete. Nope. Okay, I hope my answer was enough. So Joanna, Latin American literature. So I need to remember what question you asked previously because I don't see it. I think it was regarding how to find a PhD offer, and my answer was it depends on the field, because the approaches are different. It is true that in Latin American literature, probably you will have to identify a supervisor. So look, that's what we said before, try to identify someone that works on the same topics that you would be interested in to work with, and contact them, and hopefully following all the good advice that Melike provided you, well, you will get an answer. Okay. How is it decided how long we spent in France in the program? If you're talking about a cotutelle program, over a 3-year PhD, the minimum duration of time that you would spend in France would be 12 months. Sometimes it is expected for you to spend half of your time in France. That would be 18 months over the course of your PhD program. But this is a decision that is made between both your universities and your supervisors. So really there is no national regulation. Again, you need to talk to your doctoral schools to the doctoral school in France and to your supervisor in your home university. Is it possible to transfer PhD studies, for example, from Austria to France? That is a very good question, and to which I have not have the answer. Aude or Melike, maybe. Maybe we would need more, because it would require you to find a new supervisor in France, that's for sure, to pursue your study, but maybe we don't understand your question very well. So what I would suggest is that you contact us directly. You contact Vincent, if you're in Austria, contact Vincent directly. You tell us more about your situation, and we can give you more advice on that. And this is a global advice. If your situation is very specific, we might not have the answer directly. We might need to do some research. So please contact us directly. And Vincent just wrote his email address in the chat. Okay, so I'm trying to move forward. There really are a lot of questions. I am a Namibian student, second year PhD student in the Czech Republic, and I would like to ask that if I would be eligible for this opportunity too. If you mean this, by saying this opportunity, if you mean, can I apply to the funding opportunities provided by the French Embassy in the Czech Republic? The answer is yes, there is no nationality requirements, so you are eligible. Can I start a PhD in France if I have already obtained a PhD in Poland? Yes, you can start as many PhDs as you want, so no problem, and you're very brave. What is a postdoc? Who wants to answer that?
Again, it's a temporary research contract that you may have after your PhD. So a postdoc can be done in a private company or public agency, or at a university in a research organization, in a public lab. And a postdoc, generally, it has become really a must to have a permanent position in academia. Usually after your PhD, you need to do one or several postdocs.
Thank you.
Most of the time abroad.
Sorry, I interrupted you, Oda. So next question, I would like to know for PhD. Anu, maybe you want to write to us because I'm not sure I understand the question, the way it is asked. What would be the minimum master marks for acceptance from professor or university in France? It's really hard to answer this question. As we said earlier, there's no official regulations. It really depends on your discipline, on the doctoral school you're applying to. No general answer to that. Okay, there's a question about CIFRE. Maybe Melike, you want to answer that? Does the CIFRE has to be realized with a partner institution in France? So maybe
Aude can answer that more in detail, I think, but yes.
Okay.
Yes. The company has to be in France, yeah.
Okay, the company.
The French contract. So it can be a French company with abroad offices, but the contract has to be French.
Okay, thank you. As a PhD, I'm a student, or there is a possibility to be a university staff member, assistant of the professor, or giving lectures. Yes, I'm not a specialist on that, so but yes, you can be a PhD student and also give courses at the same time. There's a specific type of contract for that, whose name I'm not going to give here because it might be a little. It's easier maybe if we get in touch, and we can if you can write to us and we can tell you more about this. But this is a possibility to be an assistant to the professor. And I think the last question is in French. So regarding the training program, okay. What is there? What kind of training do we get as a PhD student in France? I can answer, but maybe Aude, you would be more qualified.
Like I mentioned previously in the webinar, so you have courses organized by the doctoral school, such as writing your CV or academic writing, or this kind of training program to open to professional horizon.
Yeah, so complementary skills, soft skills.
And regarding the publication questions, it's most of the time academic publication with peer-reviewed journals and so on, and chapters in a public collective book.
Thank you, Aude. Is there any specific platform to apply for PhD in nanoscience in France? And is there any specific scholarship for students who graduated from French universities? I am not aware of any specific platform about PhDs in nanoscience. But this is something that we could try to look on the web, but I don't know any. Aude and Melike, no information on that. Sorry. And any specific scholarship for students who graduated from French university? I'm not sure I understand the question. There will be no specific scholarship from the French embassies elsewhere, if that is your question. But maybe you can contact us about your project and we can help you more precisely.
Just maybe to reply to this question, most of the French government scholarship, as I mentioned, such as Eiffel scholarship or MOBGA scholarship, the French citizens are not eligible to those scholarships. But for all other PhD contract, obviously, it's open to all nationalities, including French citizens.
Thank you very much. That was way clearer than what I said. And probably last question, can we do the PhD in France at the same time and at the same time work in another country? I heard someone do like, I don't know if it's because of the situation of COVID. I believe, yes, there's been a lot of distance work carried out, especially in the case of cotutelles this year, but that would not be common. So usually, especially if you're in the hard sciences or experimental sciences, you would have to be in France to conduct your experiments, and so you cannot do that from another country. And can you write the name of the website where we can look for the PhD offers? So we'll do more than that. We will send you the PowerPoint presentations, and so that you have all the necessary information and all the links to the websites where you can find PhD offers. Okay, and I think that was the last question. I'm checking the chat real quick, but wow, there was a lot of questions today. So we're happy because it means that you're interested in the topics. So I think now we can say that our webinar on the basics of research and doctoral studies in France is coming to an end. I would like to thank again very, very warmly our panelists for their excellent contribution. Thank you also very much for our audience and all the lively discussions. We really hope that this has been useful to you and that also it has motivated you to move forward with your project. Again, if you have specific questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. All our contact information will be on the PowerPoint. Some of them have already been given in the chat, but please contact us directly. It will be easier to provide you with a very precise and detailed answer.